The sky above Earth was peaceful, with no signs of danger. People went about their daily lives, unaware that their world was about to change forever. But that peaceful day ended the moment the sky was filled with strange, massive ships. They came without warning, huge, metallic crafts that seemed to blot out the sun. Their shapes were unlike anything humans had ever seen before, sleek and frightening, moving with an unnatural speed and precision. These ships weren't from any country on Earth. They were from the stars, from a race of beings known as the Zarnak Empire, a powerful alien civilization that had conquered countless worlds across the galaxy. Earth was now in their sights. The Empire's ships hovered over major cities, casting long shadows over the land below. The air felt thick with tension, and fear began to spread like wildfire. The Zarnak Empire was known for their ruthless conquests. Their leader, Emperor Zorith, had brought countless planets under his rule. No one dared to oppose them. They came with overwhelming strength, advanced weapons, technology far beyond anything humans could imagine. And now, Earth had caught their eye. A deep booming voice echoed from the ships, speaking directly into the minds of Earth's leaders. This world is now under the protection of the Zarnak Empire. Surrender to us, and you will be spared. Refuse, and your world will burn. The message was clear. The Empire did not ask for permission. They demanded submission. Leaders from every nation on Earth gathered in panic, trying to make sense of what was happening. Their military forces were no match for the advanced alien technology. How could they fight back against an enemy that could destroy them with a single command? However, the leaders of Earth shared one thing in common. They were not ready to surrender. Their people refused to kneel to anyone. The idea of giving up their freedom, their independence, was unimaginable. Earth had faced countless challenges throughout history, and every time, they had found a way to survive. They were resilient, they were resourceful, and they would not go down without a fight. The first signs of resistance came not from governments, but from the people. Ordinary citizens across the world began to take action. Some started gathering in protest, holding up signs demanding that Earth stand strong. Others began looking for ways to defend themselves, searching for weapons, creating makeshift barricades, and organizing small groups of resistance fighters. It was clear Earth was not going to accept the Empire's rule quietly. In a small town in the heart of America, a group of young engineers worked tirelessly in a hidden workshop. They weren't soldiers, but they had a passion for technology. They had been watching the skies, wondering what would happen next, and when they saw the alien ships, they knew their skills could be used for something important. They started gathering materials, scraps of old machinery, parts from disused satellites, anything they could find. They began building something, a device they hoped could help Earth fight back. Meanwhile, in the capital cities, military leaders were forced to make tough decisions. Should they immediately launch an attack on the alien ships, even though they had no idea how to defeat them? Or should they wait and try to negotiate, hoping the aliens would show mercy? But there was no time to waste. As the days passed, the alien ships didn't leave. They didn't move at all, as if they were waiting for Earth to make the first move. The first official message from the Zarnak Empire came through the global news networks. Emperor Zorith's voice filled the airwaves. "We have given you a choice. Surrender or perish. Your world will be ours. Your people will serve us. There is no other way." But Earth was not ready to accept that fate. Though they were scared, though they were unsure, they were determined to fight for their planet. As the resistance began to take shape, it wasn't just about the soldiers or the leaders. It was about everyone. Farmers, doctors, teachers, engineers working together for the same cause. People who had never thought they would fight a war now found themselves standing side by side, ready to defend their homes, their families, and their freedom. The idea of kneeling before an alien empire felt wrong, and they all knew it. The first steps had been taken. Earth's fight for survival had begun. The Zarnak Empire had underestimated the strength of humanity. And now, Earth was ready to show the invaders that they were not as easily conquered as the aliens had believed. The moment the alien ships arrived, it was clear that the battle for Earth was about to begin. Earth's military had never faced anything like this. The Empire's ships were massive, and their weapons powerful. The people on Earth had only seen such power in science fiction movies. But now, the reality was much worse. The Empire's ships hovered over major cities, their energy shields glowing with an intimidating light. The alien soldiers, armored in dark, reflective suits, waited for the orders to strike. Despite the fear that spread across the world, humans did not bow down. Military leaders, along with brave civilians, immediately began to take action. The first thing Earth's forces tried was a direct strike. Fighter jets and missiles were launched, but they were no match for the alien ships. The alien technology was simply too advanced. Missiles exploded harmlessly against the Empire's energy shields, and Earth's jets were easily outmaneuvered by the aliens' faster ships. At first, it seemed like humanity had no chance. The Empire's weapons could destroy entire cities with a single blast, and their ships seemed unstoppable. But Earth had something the Empire did not count on: human creativity and determination. Instead of giving up, humans started to think differently. In the midst of the chaos, the engineer from the small town in America, along with his team, managed to finish the device they had been working on. It wasn't much compared to the Empire's ships, but it was a start. The engineer had used alien technology he had scavenged from the wreckage of the alien drones that had crashed during the first landing. With those parts, he built a small EMP, electromagnetic pulse, weapon, hoping it could disrupt the Empire's technology for just a moment. It was risky, but it was their only option. The resistance group set out to launch the weapon at the nearest alien base. They knew it would not be enough to defeat the Empire, but if they could damage their technology even a little, it would send a message. The group was small, but their determination was strong. They moved in the shadows, avoiding the alien patrols that had begun sweeping the cities. As they approached the base, they could see the alien forces gathered in large numbers. The aliens had begun to fortify their positions, setting up barriers and deploying soldiers to secure the area. The humans knew they had to act fast. There was no time for hesitation. The engineer and his team set up the EMP device near a critical energy relay station, hidden behind an old building. It was their only chance to strike. The plan was simple: activate the EMP, cause a brief disruption in the alien systems, and then retreat before the aliens could react. The device hummed to life, and within moments, a powerful pulse shot through the area. For a few seconds, everything went dark. The alien ships in the sky faltered, their systems glitching. The soldiers on the ground froze, unsure of what had just happened. But the window of opportunity was short. The aliens quickly regained control of their systems. The EMP had caused just enough disruption to surprise them, but it wasn't enough to stop them entirely. The human resistance, however, wasn't done yet. As the EMP signal died down, the team quickly retreated, making their way back through the dark streets. The Empire's forces were angry now, and they began searching for the attackers. Their ships soared above the city, scanning for any signs of human activity. The resistance team had barely escaped, but they had done something no one had thought possible. They had struck back, and the aliens knew they were dealing with a species that wouldn't give up easily. The news spread like wildfire across Earth. For the first time since the alien invasion began, humans felt a spark of hope. They weren't completely powerless. The first clash between Earth's forces and the Empire had ended, and though the Empire still held the upper hand, humanity had shown that they could fight back. Around the world, more people began to join the resistance. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock to develop new technologies that could give humanity a fighting chance. Civilians who had never held a weapon in their life started learning how to defend their homes. Farmers, teachers, and doctors. People from all walks of life began to stand together, ready to protect their world. The Empire might have the most advanced technology in the galaxy, but they underestimated one thing: the will of humanity. No matter how powerful their ships or weapons were, the humans would never stop fighting for their planet. Earth had taken its first step toward winning the war, and the Empire was beginning to realize that Earth was not as easy a target as they had believed. The moment Earth's resistance launched their first successful strike, something changed. The alien empire, once so sure of their control over the galaxy, now faced an enemy they had underestimated. The Zarnak Empire's leaders were not used to being challenged. They were used to conquering worlds with little to no resistance. But Earth was different. The people of this planet were not going to kneel easily. Across the globe, news of the first successful strike spread. In every city, on every street, humans began to believe that they could win. It was a small victory, yes, but it was proof that they could push back. The aliens, however, had not been idle. They began reinforcing their positions, sending more ships to patrol the skies, and tightening their grip on Earth's cities. It became clear that the fight would not be easy. The human resistance, still small but growing, needed to gather more resources and weapons to keep the fight alive. A team of scientists, engineers, and military leaders came together to form a new plan. They knew that Earth's military technology was far behind the Empire's, but they had one advantage the aliens couldn't predict: their ability to adapt quickly and think outside the box. They began to research alien technology, studying the wreckage of the ships and drones they had been able to salvage. In one underground lab, a group of engineers worked tirelessly on creating a weapon that could match the power of the alien ships. They had reverse-engineered a small piece of the alien technology and used it to develop a new kind of missile, one that could potentially breach the Empire's shields. But there was a problem. They had no way of knowing if the missile would work. The technology was still in its infancy, and the stakes couldn't be higher. As the engineers worked day and night, the resistance began organizing larger groups of civilians. Farmers and factory workers, students and soldiers, all joined the effort to fight back. They created hidden bases in forests, mountains, and underground bunkers, where they trained for battle. But it wasn't just about fighting. It was about protecting the things they loved. People began to protect their homes, their families, and their way of life. They were not fighting for glory or fame. They were fighting for their survival. Meanwhile, the alien forces were growing more aggressive. Their ships darkened the sky, their soldiers patrolled every city, and their weapons devastated anything that stood in their way. The aliens demanded that the world submit to their rule, but Earth's leaders refused to bow. They knew that surrender meant extinction. And so, the fight continued. The first real test came when the resistance finally finished their new missile. The engineers had managed to create a weapon capable of striking the blow to the Empire's energy shields. It wasn't perfect, but it was the best Earth had. The missile was loaded onto a transport ship, and the team set out to strike an alien ship that was hovering just outside of New York City. If the missile worked, it could disable the alien ship long enough for Earth's forces to launch a more significant attack. If it failed, the resistance would have no choice but to retreat and regroup. As the missile was launched into the sky, everyone on the ground held their breath. The alien ship, a massive vessel with glowing lights and an imposing structure, appeared almost invincible. The missile shot through the air, its engines roaring as it approached the target. But just as it neared the ship, an unexpected event occurred. The alien ship's shields began to flicker, the glowing barrier wavering. For a moment, it looked like the missile would miss. But at the last second, the missile hit. It struck the shield with a tremendous force, causing the entire ship to shudder. For a moment, everything went silent. The resistance members watched, uncertain if their strike had worked. Then a loud crack echoed through the air as the shield collapsed, and the ship's energy systems began to malfunction. The missile had done its job. It wasn't a perfect hit, but it was enough to disable the alien ship temporarily. The victory was small, but it was another sign that Earth's people could stand against the Empire. In the days that followed, the alien forces began to realize that Earth was not as weak as they had thought. The Resistance, though still outmatched, had found a way to hurt them. The Empire's confidence began to falter. The invaders were no longer certain they would be able to crush the humans as easily as they had expected. The battle was far from over. The Empire would not give up without a fight. But Earth had found a way to strike back. The turning point had arrived, and the humans were beginning to believe they could win. The Resistance had gained momentum, and the Zarnak Empire now faced a world that would not kneel. It was clear that Earth's struggle for survival was just beginning. After the successful strike on the alien ship, Earth's Resistance felt a renewed sense of hope. For the first time since the invasion began, they believed they could actually win. But the Empire was not a force that would back down easily. In response to the damage they had suffered, the alien forces began to regroup and plan their next move. The Empire's leaders, stunned by Earth's unexpected resistance, knew they had to escalate their efforts. The Zarnak Empire was vast and powerful, but Earth had proven to be more difficult than they had imagined. They had underestimated the human spirit, and now they were determined to crush it. The aliens launched a counterattack, one far more aggressive than anything Earth had seen so far. Hundreds of new ships, larger and more powerful than the ones they had already sent, appeared in the skies. These ships were equipped with advanced weapons that Earth's defenses couldn't handle. The Empire had learned from their earlier mistakes, and they were prepared to wipe out any remaining resistance. As the alien ships descended, they began bombing cities, targeting civilian populations as well as military bases. The attacks were relentless and brutal, causing widespread destruction. The streets were filled with panic as people ran to find shelter. The Resistance had made great progress, but now they had to face the full might of the Empire. Humanity's leaders quickly organized a defense strategy, but it was clear that their resources were limited. They had no way of knowing how many ships the Empire had, and each battle felt like a desperate last stand. The new missile weapon, though useful, was not enough to turn the tide. It could disable a single ship, but the aliens had many more. Earth's forces needed something more powerful, something that could match the Empire's overwhelming strength. While the military leaders scrambled to come up with a new plan, the engineers and scientists continued to work on new technologies. The Resistance had learned that one of the key weaknesses of the Empire's ships was their communication system. If they could disrupt the alien ships' communications, they might be able to turn the tide in their favor. But time was running out, and the Empire's forces were closing in fast. In one of Earth's underground laboratories, the lead scientist, Dr. Elena Turner, made a breakthrough. She and her team had been working on a new kind of weapon that could jam the Empire's communication signals, causing confusion among the alien ships. They had developed a device that could send out a signal so powerful that it would scramble the alien ship systems. It was risky, but if it worked, it could provide the opening the Resistance needed. Dr. Turner and her team quickly set to work building a prototype. But there was one problem. The device had to be placed near one of the Empire's flagship ships. The risk was enormous. The flagship was heavily guarded, and getting close enough to activate the device would mean certain death for anyone who attempted it. But without this weapon, Earth's Resistance would be lost. A volunteer group of soldiers, led by Commander James Carter, was tasked with the mission. They knew the danger they faced, but they also understood the importance of their mission. The fight for Earth had become more than just a battle for survival. It was a battle for the future of humanity. The group prepared for the most dangerous mission of their lives. The team made their way toward the flagship, avoiding alien patrols and using stealth tactics to remain undetected. As they approached the flagship, the tension was palpable. They knew they had only one shot at this. If they failed, the Empire would have the upper hand, and Earth would fall. Finally, they reached the flagship's outer perimeter. The alien ship towered above them, its massive form dark against the night sky. The soldiers set up the jamming device near the ship's communications tower, praying that it would work. They activated the device, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a loud hum, the signal went out. The alien ships above them began to shake, their systems malfunctioning as they lost communication with their fleet. It was working. The Empire's ships were now vulnerable. The soldiers quickly made their retreat, but they knew that they had only moments before the alien forces regained control. As they ran back to the safety of their underground base, the Resistance's forces launched a coordinated attack, using the window of opportunity to strike back at the alien fleet. The jamming device had bought them precious time. The alien ships were confused, unable to communicate with one another, and Earth's forces took full advantage of the situation. Fighter jets, missile strikes, and ground forces attacked the vulnerable ships, causing significant damage to the Empire's fleet. The Resistance had finally gained the upper hand, and the aliens were starting to realize that Earth would not be defeated so easily. Despite the Empire's overwhelming strength, humanity had shown that it could fight back, no matter the odds. The battle was far from over, but the Resistance was growing stronger. The Empire had underestimated humanity's resilience, and now it was too late to turn back. The success of the jamming device had given Earth's Resistance a critical advantage, but the Empire was not one to give up easily. They had faced setbacks before, but their empire was vast, and their resources seemed endless. The Zarnak Empire was angry and determined to crush the humans once and for all. They had underestimated the resilience of Earth, but now they would make sure that no stone was left unturned in their pursuit of victory. The alien fleet regrouped, stronger and more aggressive than before. New ships, more advanced than any the Resistance had ever faced, arrived in Earth's atmosphere. These ships were larger, faster, and equipped with weapons capable of destroying entire cities with a single blast. The aliens had come to deliver their final blow to Earth. Humanity's leaders knew the Resistance had one last chance to end this war. They had to strike before the Empire could recover fully. Earth's forces, though battle-worn, were united and determined. They had already fought back once, and now they had to push even harder. The planet's fate depended on it. In the underground command center, Commander James Carter stood before a large map of the world, his eyes scanning the red dots that marked the positions of the alien ships. The Empire had launched an all-out assault on Earth's major cities, targeting the Resistance's strongholds. The clock was ticking, and humanity had to act fast. "We've got one shot at this," Carter said, his voice steady despite the pressure. "If we don't stop them now, we won't get another chance." The Resistance had been preparing for this final battle for weeks. They had salvaged as much alien technology as they could, and Earth scientists had developed new weapons and defenses. But the question remained, would it be enough to stop the Empire's onslaught? The plan was simple but dangerous. The Resistance would launch a surprise attack on the alien flagship, the Zarnak Emperor's personal vessel. The ship was the heart of the Empire's fleet, and if they could destroy it, the entire fleet would collapse. But the flagship was heavily guarded, and getting close to it would require immense courage and precision. The mission would be suicide for anyone who failed. Commander Carter was the first to volunteer for the mission. "We can't afford to send anyone else," he said. "I'll lead the team." His resolve was unwavering, but deep down, he knew the risks. The fight had already cost too many lives, and this last mission would likely claim more. But if they didn't act now, the future of Earth and all its people would be lost. With the mission set, Earth's forces launched a full-scale assault on the alien fleet. Fighter jets soared into the sky, missiles flew through the air, and tanks rumbled across the ground. The battle for Earth had reached its peak. The aliens responded quickly, their ships returning fire with devastating force. The sky lit up with explosions as Earth's defenses clashed with the alien weaponry. It was chaos. But through the smoke and fire, the Resistance forces pressed forward. They knew this was the fight that would determine their future. Carter's team, equipped with advanced alien technology, made their way to the enemy flagship. They'd fought their way through alien defenses, using every tactic they had learned in the past months. They moved quickly, silently, avoiding detection as much as possible. When they finally reached the flagship's main control room, Carter's heart raced. The room was massive, with advanced alien consoles lighting up in various shades of red and blue. The Zarnak Empire's high-ranking officers stood at the far side, unaware of the human presence. But that would change quickly. The team planted explosives on the ship's core and triggered the countdown. The plan was simple: destroy the heart of the ship and take out the entire fleet. But there was one problem. Carter had not anticipated the alien emperor's personal guards, who arrived just as the explosives were set. A fierce battle erupted. Carter and his team fought back with everything they had. The alien guards were powerful, but the Resistance's quick thinking and determination gave them the upper hand. Despite their injuries, they pressed forward, knowing that the fate of the planet rested on their shoulders. Finally, with the countdown nearing its end, Carter made one last desperate move. He planted the final explosive charge near the ship's control center, setting off a chain reaction that would destroy the flagship. The entire ship began to shake violently as the explosions rippled through its core. "Time's up," Carter shouted, pulling his team toward the escape pod. The countdown was nearing its final seconds. As the team raced toward safety, the flagship erupted in a massive explosion. The shockwave sent ripples through the alien fleet, and many of the ships began to lose power and crash into one another. The Empire's coordination had been shattered. The Resistance had done it. They had destroyed the heart of the Zarnak Empire's fleet. But the battle was far from over. The alien forces still outnumbered Earth's resistance, and the war was not yet won. But now, with the flagship destroyed and the Empire's fleet in disarray, the humans had gained a critical advantage. For the first time, the Empire was on the defensive. Earth's resistance had struck a decisive blow, and the Zarnak Empire knew it. The humans had shown that no matter how powerful the Empire was, they could not break the spirit of Earth. After the destruction of the alien flagship, Earth's resistance felt a glimmer of hope. The battle was far from over, but the tide had begun to turn. For the first time, the alien forces were in disarray, and humanity had the upper hand. Commander James Carter and his team had dealt a devastating blow to the Zarnak Empire, but the war was still raging. The Resistance knew that now was the time to push forward, to strike while the aliens were weak. Back on Earth, the cities that had once been targets of the alien bombardment were now rallying points for the human forces. The world was united like never before. People from every corner of the globe, soldiers and civilians alike, came together with one purpose: to take back their planet. The destruction of the alien flagship had given them the hope they needed to fight even harder. The Earth's military leaders were quick to capitalize on the confusion caused by the Empire's loss. The Resistance forces began to mount a counteroffensive. Fighter jets soared through the skies, attacking alien ships that were still trying to regain control. Ground forces moved in, reclaiming territory that had been occupied by the invaders. It was a desperate yet determined push. At the heart of the operation was Commander Carter. He knew that the next step was crucial. The destruction of the flagship was a major victory, but the Empire's core leadership still remained. The Zarnak Emperor and his top officers were still a formidable force, and they had to be taken down if humanity was going to win this war. Carter gathered his most trusted allies and laid out a new plan. The Resistance needed to infiltrate the heart of the Zarnak Empire, to strike at the very core of their power. The mission was even more dangerous than the last, but it was the only way to end the war. They would have to travel to the Empire's homeworld, a place where no human had ever set foot. The journey to the Empire's homeworld was perilous. The alien forces, though weakened, still controlled large portions of space. The Resistance would have to navigate through enemy territory, avoiding alien patrols and battling through obstacles. But the humans were no strangers to danger. They had already proven that they could fight back against overwhelming odds, and they were ready to do it again. As the team prepared for their mission, Commander Carter reflected on everything that had led them to this point. The people of Earth had suffered so much, and many had lost loved ones. But through it all, they had never given up. It was the human spirit, resilient, determined, and unyielding, that had carried them this far. And now, they had a chance to finish what they had started. The journey to the Empire's homeworld was long and difficult. Earth's resistance fleet moved in stealth, avoiding detection by the alien ships. But the closer they got to the heart of the Empire, the more intense the alien defenses became. It was a dangerous game of cat and mouse, with both sides trying to outwit each other. When they finally arrived at the Empire's homeworld, the team found themselves facing their biggest challenge yet. The planet was heavily fortified, with massive shields and advanced weaponry protecting it from attack. Infiltrating the planet would not be easy. The Empire's forces were prepared for any kind of assault, and the humans would have to be smarter than ever to succeed. Carter's team landed on a remote section of the planet's surface, far from the main military bases. They had to move quickly and silently, using their alien technology to navigate through the planet's defenses. It was a race against time. If they were discovered, the entire mission would fail, and the human resistance would be crushed. The planet's surface was harsh and unforgiving, with jagged mountains and vast deserts. The team moved quickly, using the cover of darkness to avoid detection. They had one goal in mind: to find the Zarnak Emperor and put an end to his reign of terror. As they neared the heart of the Empire's stronghold, the team encountered fierce resistance. Alien guards, armed with advanced weaponry, patrolled the area. But the humans were ready. Using their training and alien technology, they outmaneuvered the guards, taking them down quietly before moving on. Finally, after days of exhausting travel, they'd reached the central command center of the Empire. It was a massive structure, towering high into the sky. Inside, the Zarnak Emperor awaited. The humans knew that this would be the final battle. They had come all this way to face him, and they would stop at nothing to end the war. Commander Carter stood at the entrance of the command center, his heart racing. The fate of Earth rested on his shoulders. He turned to his team, his voice filled with determination. "This is it," he said. "We've come this far, and we're not turning back now. The Empire ends today." With that, they charged into the heart of the Zarnak Empire, ready to face whatever lay ahead. The humans had come a long way. What started as a small resistance against an overwhelming empire had grown into a full-scale war. After weeks of fighting, of facing almost impossible odds, Commander James Carter and his team had made their way to the very heart of the Zarnak Empire. The Empire's stronghold was in sight, and they knew that the moment to end the war had finally arrived. Inside the massive command center, the Zarnak Emperor waited, surrounded by his most trusted officers. He was a tall, imposing figure, his skin a deep shade of purple, his eyes glowing with cold determination. He had watched Earth struggle for years, thinking they were weak, that their attempts at resistance were nothing more than a nuisance. But now, the humans had made it to his doorstep. Carter and his team had no illusions about what lay ahead. They knew they were up against the full might of the Empire, but they were ready. The journey had been long and filled with loss, but the humans had one thing the Zarnak Empire never could understand: the unbreakable will to survive. The team moved swiftly through the corridors of the Empire's central command. Their footsteps echoed in the silence, their breaths steady but quick with anticipation. They had come to end this war, and they would not fail. The fate of Earth depended on it. As they neared the Emperor's throne room, the final obstacle stood in their way: the elite guards. The Zarnak Empire's soldiers were formidable, but Carter had trained his team well. Using their advanced alien technology and their knowledge of the enemy's tactics, they fought their way through the guards, each strike decisive and swift. There was no hesitation. There was no fear. The resistance had become a force to be reckoned with. When they reached the throne room, the doors swung open, revealing the Zarnak Emperor seated on his throne, flanked by his generals. The room was filled with a dark energy, the air thick with the presence of the Empire's might. Carter stepped forward, his gaze never wavering from the Emperor. "We've come to end your reign," Carter said, his voice steady. "Your Empire's days are over." The Emperor stood, his eyes narrowing in anger. "You think you can defeat me? You think you can bring down the Zarnak Empire with your pathetic resistance? I have crushed worlds before. You are nothing." Carter's team stood their ground, ready for what was to come. The Emperor's words were empty threats. The humans had already proved that they could fight back, no matter the odds. They had already destroyed the flagship, and they had already struck at the heart of the Empire. Now, they would finish the job. The battle began with a clash of weapons and the hum of energy blasts filling the room. The Emperor's guards were powerful, but the humans were faster and more determined. They moved with precision, each action calculated. The Zarnak soldiers fell one by one, their advanced weaponry no match for the Resistance's ingenuity. But the true challenge lay ahead. The Emperor himself. The Zarnak ruler was a skilled fighter, his strength unmatched by most. He wielded a weapon of dark energy, capable of disintegrating anything in its path. But Carter was ready. He had studied the Emperor's moves, and he knew exactly how to counter them. The two leaders locked eyes as they circled each other, the tension thick in the air. The Emperor lunged, his weapon crackling with energy. Carter dodged, his movements swift and calculated. The two exchanged blows, their weapons clashing in a shower of sparks. The fight was intense, but Carter's determination never wavered. He knew that this was the moment that would decide Earth's fate. With a sudden burst of speed, Carter disarmed the Emperor, sending his weapon flying across the room. The Emperor stumbled back, momentarily stunned. This was it. Carter raised his own weapon, aiming it at the Zarnak ruler. "Your empire is finished," Carter said, his voice firm. "This ends now." With one final strike, the Emperor was defeated. The power that had once held the Empire together vanished in an instant. The Resistance had done it. Earth had won. The throne room was silent. Carter stood over the fallen Emperor, his breath steady but heavy. The fight had been long, but it was over. The Empire was no more. Outside, the skies began to clear. The alien fleet that had once loomed over Earth was now in disarray, and the remaining Zarnak forces, without leadership, began to retreat. The humans had not only survived, they had triumphed. Back on Earth, the news spread quickly. People across the globe celebrated the victory, knowing that their planet was safe once again. The war had been costly, but it had brought humanity together in a way that nothing else ever could. The Resistance had shown the world that no matter how powerful the enemy, no matter how impossible the odds, the human spirit would always endure. As Commander Carter and his team made their way back to Earth, they knew the battle was over. But the work of rebuilding had just begun. Earth had won, but now it was time to heal, to rebuild, and to ensure that nothing like this ever happened again. The humans had refused to kneel, and in the end, the Zarnak Empire had fallen. This was their victory, and they would never forget it.